Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so it's time to put it all together, what we've learned today. And so right triangle practice, solve for x in each of the following. And we're going to round our answers to 2 decimal places. So let's take a look. So the first question, I have my 90 degrees, which means that this is my hypotenuse. And I look for a reference angle and there isn't one. So I'm not going to be using sine, cosine, or tangent on this. They're asking for a side length here. They've given me 2 other side lengths, so that's Pythagorean theorem. So I notice that this is the hypotenuse, so it's going to be 19 squared equals 16 squared plus x squared. So rearranging that, I'm going to get 16 squared plus x squared equals 19 squared. Take the 16 squared over the other side. 19 squared minus 16 squared. I'm going to let the calculator do the work. Take away 16 squared equals 105. Now that is the value for x squared. That's the square on this side. I want to square root that. So we're going to square root it. And since we're in grade 11, we know that there's 2 answers here. One of them is 10.25 positive. The other one is negative. But because it's a length, we're going to omit the negative. And what we're going to get is x equals positive 10.25 meters. And yes, I understand that you're always going to end up with the positive one, that this seems like it's not important, but trust me, it is, and there's a mark for it. And if you don't have it, then you're not going to get that mark. So make sure that you have it, and it shows that we know that there's 2 possible mathematical answers, but because it's a real life problem, only one of them makes sense in this problem. B. So again, we start off with looking and making sure it's a 90 degree or a right triangle. That's going to give us a hypotenuse. From that, we look for a reference angle. We've got our opposite side. We've got our adjacent side. What do we know? We know adjacent and opposite, so that's going to be tangent. So I know that I got tangent of 14 equals opposite over adjacent. This is the easiest type of question you're ever going to get. It's giving you the angle and your unknown is in the top, so we're going to cross multiply, giving us 180 times tan 14 equals x. Grabbing your calculator, making sure you're in degrees. I'm going to do the tan of 14 first, multiply it by 180, and I'll get an answer of x equals approximately 44.88 millimeters. C, we've got the 90 degrees, which means that this is hypotenuse. I've got a reference angle, which means this is opposite. This is adjacent. What do I know? I know opposite. I know hypotenuse. So what works with opposite and hypotenuse? That's sine. So sine of 62 degrees is going to equal opposite 108 over x. This is a little bit more concerning. We have our unknown in the bottom. If you're concerned about this type, go back and look at the video I left for you earlier in this post. It's entitled, "Oh no, the x is in the bottom." I think that's very appropriately entitled. And so we have a situation like this. What's happening is we can put that over top of 1. Let's cross multiply. Let's do it in slow motion so everyone can see what's happening. The x times the sine of 62, and it's actually 1 times 108, but that's just 108. I now have a number here, sine of 62, so I'm going to divide both sides by sine of 62. So if I divide this side by sine of 62, I have to divide this side by sine of 62. These 2 are going to reduce, so they go away, leaving me with x equals 108 divided by sine of 62, and that's going to give us a final answer of 108 divided by 62 sine equals, and it's 122.32 centimeters. Now remember, on your calculator you may have to hit sine first, then the 62. Learn how to use your calculator. Okay, now, and you certainly don't need to show all these steps. If you wanted to, if I was doing this question for myself, I would do sine of 62 degrees equals 108 over x. Oh no, the x is on the bottom. I would cross multiply. I would get sine of 62 equals 108. I would get x equals 108 over sine of 62. And then I would get x equals, once again, 108 divided by 62 sine equals 122.32. And those would be the steps that I would have, not all of those, but whatever works, whatever helps you do it. And D, the last one. So once again, I'm going to take a look at this question. It is a right triangle, that's a good thing. If it wasn't a right triangle, I couldn't do any of this, by the way. If it's not a right triangle, I can't use Pythagorean theorem. And if it's not a right triangle, I can't use sine, cosine, or tangent. So that would be pretty tricky. Me giving you a triangle that wasn't 90 degrees, you could not do any of these things. So make sure that you understand that. So this is going to be my hypotenuse. That's my reference angle. This will be opposite to my reference angle. This is adjacent to my reference angle. What do I have? I got adjacent and hypotenuse. That's cosine. So what I have is cosine x equals adjacent, 45 over 61. So what I'm after here is an angle, and you got to notice that. That's an angle that I'm after, so I need to use the inverse. So I'm going to be saying angle x is going to be equal to the inverse of cosine of 45 divided by 61. And again, I don't want to write out that decimal. That's a pretty big decimal, I think. Yeah, see, and if I was doing this, if I was going to write it out, I'd have to write out everything I had, so I make sure that I didn't round too soon. So instead, I'll just let the calculator do the work. I'll do shift, cosine, and I'm going to get angle x equals approximately 42.46 degrees. All right, guys, you can finish off the practice, and then you can do the progress check, both sides, and notice that there's answers at the bottom, and that'll be good. Talk to you soon.